like something a little bit more arty, and what I want to do is actually put a slope on mine. So the first one I'll do is I'll get a solid bit of timber, and as you can see it's a lot thicker than the slot. Let's now cut down to the size I want. So now what I want to do is measure the width of this slide, which, if you remember, is the width of the saw blade, and this is going to be the bottom. So from the bottom I'm going to measure up 3 mil, which is the size of my saw blade, and I'm going to mark that on 3 sides. Now I can't just plane straight down to that. If you remember with the chest box, it was done with a saw blade, and it's a straight cut, which I don't like. I want to blend this in. So now I'm going to come in whatever I think is a fair thing on the edges. In fact, I think this is about 3/4 of an inch. I'll mark up one side and across the bottom and up the other side. So now I've got a depth line all the way around, and I've got an incised line, if you like. So we're going to come in on a slope like that, from this depth gauge here up to this shoulder. So when I do something like this, the first part that I do is always the end grain, which is going to be the end part, because then if I have any tear out, it doesn't matter so much, because when I come down and plane these edges, it's going to take out any tear out that I've got here. It's always a good idea too to have a scrap bit of material with the saw cut in it, or the thickness of whatever size slips you've got in here. And with a block plane or a small plane, plane along the end grain here up to that line, but you want to go down to the depth line and then in to this distance line here. It's always handy to have a little bit of candle in your pocket, or a bit of beeswax or paraffin wax. Makes the plane go a lot smoother. If you're worried about hitting this line here and going too far, something you can do, grab some masking tape, and right where that line is, on the line there, so I'll go 1, 2, 3. Now what you'll find is this part of the plane will ride up on the tape and not cut it, but you'll still get a cut here. Just check that depth. Close, close. When I get that close, I'll then take the tape off. And because I'm not taking off huge chunks, I can gradually creep up on that line. So once I've got it to that stage, then I start focusing on these 2 edges. It's important to read which way the grain's going. And don't forget, this is a little bit longer than I want it, and the reason for that is I can make a little mistake or whatever, and I've got just that little bit that I can correct it if I have to. I don't find I have the problem with this line as I did with this end, because it's much easier to control your plane whilst you're going a long grain. In fact, what I'll do, I think I'll use a normal plane on this, because it's a lot to take off. What I'm looking for too is, as you're planing, there's a line will appear here, and I want to move this line so it actually goes from the point of where the marking gauge line is at 45 degrees to the corner here. Once that's done, then I know that it's the same thickness all the way around. Now I think I'll change to a block plane, and it's important that your tools are really, really sharp at this point, especially if you're working with cranky grain, because you will get tear out otherwise. Check it with your gauge. Okay, that's good there, but we've got some more to take off back here. Don't be tempted when you get to this stage, oh, crank the blade out a bit and take more off. If anything, back your blade off and take less off. I think I'll change over to this plane. The reason I've changed over to this plane, it's an H&T Gordon plane, but when you're using cranky timber, it's brilliant because of the higher angle, the blade set, it tends to shear the shavings off instead of digging in with these very shallow blades. That's looking a lot better. Go for a trial fit. And it's starting. It needs a little bit more. Now that's a little bit tight in there, so what I'll do, what you can do on the bottom is just put a little chamfer. You can do that by hand. Just a little one, right on the front end of the lid, and what that'll do is help it locate home when you slide it in. That's jamming a bit, so I'm going to take a little bit off here and a little bit off here. Okay, now it's starting to jam. If you can, just rub it in and out a few times like this. And then where it's rubbing, you can see a mark there. That's where it's getting caught. So I've just got to plane a little bit off there. And there we have it. What I want to do with this one is put a back on it, but it's a little bit different to the back we put on this lid, because this material was the thickness of the slide. This is a different kettle of fish because we have a wider top, and therefore if I stick this bit we cut off, this one will be too high on the top of the box. First of all, cut this to the length we want. We can just do that by marking a line along there. And there you have it. Now this mark is the same one as you did all the way around. And you'll notice that it might not even mark part of it. Get the piece that you're going to put on top. Make sure you get it the right way around. Pop it on. These bench hooks, by the way, they're brilliant. Pop it on. Slide it up. So that's butted up against there. Slide that up to there. And then with a marking knife, again, just lightly mark along that edge. And do the chisel thing again. Give us a bit of a knife wall. Now with your saw, cut down to this level here. So I wouldn't go berserk. You just got to use your own judgment and go little by little. And with a chisel, pare that down to as far as you've gone. Or, if you've got a shoulder plane, use a shoulder plane. Then when you've got it down to the line, grab some glue and just glue it into place. Slide it in so you can square it all up. But might even just put it in the vice for a little bit. And it'll be dried very shortly. I'll just have a bit of a clean up. Alright, so this is now dry. And as you can see, fits together quite nicely. With that, what I don't like is on the back here. You see, we've still got gaps here and here, and it looks a little bit unsightly. But from the point of view of the top, I'm pretty happy with that. That's another way you can do it, and if you didn't want to go to the extent of putting this hard lip, I've made another one here, and I don't have the hard lip. So it's the same as before. I just planed these edges and across the bottom. That doesn't have a lip, but to me it doesn't look finished. I've got a thumb hole there. You can put your thumb in to open the box. How you make those thumb holes, bit of material, mark where you want it to go. This is a 212 carbon chisel, basically any straight chisel will do. I like a slight curve in it, and then it's just a question of giving it a knock down to make a cut. This is a 925. And come up to that line. And there you have it, little thumb notch. And now we're starting to come into the boxes and they're becoming slightly more complex. You'll notice I'm starting to use a slightly larger range of tools as well. So, what we've got so far is the one we started with, very basic. The next one up, where we did a couple of refinements. Now we've refined it even more. We've got rid of that base, so you can't see the base on the box. We've recessed it. And I've got away from man-made fibres in the lid, starting to use solid timber, with or without a lip. The next one I'm going to do will be mitered again, but I'll strengthen these mitered joints, and I'll show you a way of getting rid of this ugly part here and evening the top out, and I'm going to put a solid timber base which will be actually recessed into the pencil case itself, and that comes with its own couple of challenges you have to be aware of. So this is Steve pulling the shed door down as we start to really get into the pencil cases and saying remember to keep it sharp, but more importantly keep it safe, enjoy your woodwork. Oh, before I go to, I've got to give a cheery out. Joe, great to hear you're out of hospital. And Kathy, make sure he spends a lot of time in the shed making pencil cases. So keep it sharp, keep it safe, enjoy your woodwork, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye for now. Which side's up? Grab the glue. Yeah. Just to give you an idea of what I have to put up with, look what's lying down behind me. You've got a beautiful new bed over there. Hey Bob, on your bed. Go on your bed. On your bed, that's a good boy. Now look at that, he's been rolling in something dead. Don't look at me with those doughy eyes. You stink too. But I do love you. Yeah, have a snooze.